The strange thing about high expectations is that nobody sees the weight at first. People only see the ambition, the vision, the discipline, the potential. They see the goals you talk about, the standards you hold yourself to, the way you keep trying to move forward even when your mind feels exhausted. And after a while, everyone starts believing you can carry more than you actually can. Maybe even you started believing it too. But there comes a point where the pressure stops feeling motivating and starts feeling heavy. Not dramatic, not loud, just heavy. A kind of emotional weight that slowly follows you into every area of your life. You wake up tired. You think while exhausted. You rest without truly resting. Even during quiet moments, your mind keeps running in the background like something inside you refuses to fully let go. And the hardest part is that most people around you have no idea it's happening, because from the outside, you still look functional. You still answer messages. You still show up. You still smile when necessary. You still try to handle responsibilities. But internally, something feels different now. It feels like your soul has been carrying tension for too long. Like your mind never fully leaves survival mode. Like somewhere along the way, you stopped living and started managing pressure. And maybe that's why lately everything feels heavier than it should. Not because you're weak, not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because there's a difference between carrying purpose and carrying impossible emotional weight for years without stopping. Nobody really talks about what high expectations do to a human being over time, especially when those expectations come from yourself. Because when you expect a lot from yourself, even resting starts feeling uncomfortable. You sit down to breathe, and guilt appears. You slow down for a moment, and suddenly your mind reminds you of everything you haven't accomplished yet, everything you should already be, everything you thought your life would look like by now. And little by little, your inner world becomes a place where peace almost feels undeserved. That's why so many emotionally exhausted people don't even realize they're exhausted. They just think, I need to push harder. But sometimes the problem isn't lack of effort. Sometimes the problem is that your soul has been trying to survive under pressure for too long without compassion. And eventually, even strong people start feeling emotionally numb. Not because they stopped caring, but because caring deeply for too long without emotional recovery changes something inside a person, especially men. Because a lot of men were never taught how to process emotional pressure, only how to carry it, silently. So they become experts at functioning while internally collapsing. Experts at hiding fear, hiding confusion, hiding burnout, hiding disappointment, hiding the exhaustion of constantly feeling like they're falling behind in life. And maybe that's where you are right now, not destroyed, not hopeless, just tired in a way sleep can't fully fix. Tired from carrying expectations, tired from overthinking your future, tired from trying to become someone you barely have emotional energy left to chase. Tired of feeling like your value depends on how much you achieve. And maybe nobody has told you this lately, but there's a difference between ambition and emotional self-destruction. There's a difference between growth and slowly disappearing under pressure while calling it discipline. And if this video found you during one of those nights where your mind feels heavy and your chest feels tight for reasons you can't fully explain, then maybe you're not here by accident. Maybe you just needed someone to finally put words to what you've been carrying silently for years. And if that's you, then stay here with me for a little longer. And if this message speaks to something deep inside you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Not because of algorithms, not because of numbers, but because there are people silently carrying emotional weight every single day. And sometimes one honest message can help someone keep going. Maybe this channel can become a place where people stop pretending they're okay all the time. A place where exhausted people remember they're still human. A place where we rebuild quietly together, because the truth is, a lot of people are breaking silently right now, and you can feel it everywhere. People are emotionally overloaded, spiritually tired, mentally fragmented, trying to maintain an image of strength while internally feeling lost. And the frightening part is how normal this has become. Constant pressure, constant comparison, constant urgency, constant fear of wasting your potential. You start feeling like your entire existence has become a race against time. And eventually, your nervous system forgets what safety even feels like. You become hyper-aware of everything you haven't done yet. Every delay feels personal. Every mistake feels like proof you're failing. Every slow season feels dangerous. You stop experiencing life and start measuring yourself against expectations every day. And that kind of pressure changes people. Not immediately, slowly, quietly. It changes the way you think, the way you breathe, the way you speak to yourself internally. You begin living with this constant, invisible tension beneath your personality, like your mind is always preparing for something, like your body forgot how to fully relax. And maybe lately you've noticed something strange. Even when good things happen, you still struggle to feel peace. Because exhausted people don't always know how to receive rest anymore. Their mind keeps searching for the next problem, the next pressure, the next thing that could go wrong, and eventually, life starts feeling emotionally distant. You still exist inside it, but you don't fully feel connected to it anymore. You walk through your routines carrying this quiet heaviness nobody else can fully see. And maybe the hardest part is this: you remember who you used to be. You remember when you had more energy, more hope, more emotional presence. You remember when your dreams felt exciting instead of heavy? And now sometimes you look at yourself and wonder, what happened to me? But maybe nothing is wrong with you. Maybe you've just been emotionally overloaded for too long without realizing how deeply it affected you. Because emotional exhaustion doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives quietly, through years of pressure, years of carrying responsibility, years of suppressing fear, years of trying to stay strong, years of feeling like slowing down would somehow make you fall behind forever. And eventually your inner world becomes tired. Not weak, tired. There's a difference. Weakness says, I give up. Exhaustion says, I don't know how much longer I can carry this alone. And I think a lot of people watching this understand that feeling deeply, especially the people who always try to be dependable, the people who feel responsible for everyone, the people who silently carry emotional burdens while pretending they're fine, the people who keep moving because they don't feel allowed to stop. But listen carefully. You were never meant to live every day emotionally braced for impact. You were never designed to survive under endless internal pressure without consequences. Even strong minds need restoration. Even disciplined people need emotional safety. Even ambitious people need space to breathe without guilt. And maybe that's something God has been trying to show you lately through your exhaustion. Not punishment, not failure, but limitation. A reminder that you are still human. Because sometimes we become so obsessed with becoming more that we slowly disconnect from our own soul. And when that happens, life starts losing color. You become productive but emotionally absent, focused but internally disconnected, capable but empty. And eventually you realize achievement alone cannot heal emotional exhaustion. That's why some people reach goals they prayed for and still feel heavy afterward. Because the deeper problem was never simply external success. It was internal depletion. And maybe this season of your life isn't about becoming unstoppable. Maybe it's about becoming honest again. Honest about your fear. Honest about your exhaustion. Honest about how much pressure you've been silently carrying. Because healing usually begins the moment performance ends. The moment you stop pretending you're unaffected. The moment you stop calling burnout discipline. The moment you finally admit, this is hurting me. And strangely, that honesty is not weakness. It's the beginning of rebuilding. Real rebuilding. Not the fake kind built on motivation spikes and temporary hype. I'm talking about slow rebuilding, quiet rebuilding. The kind that happens internally before anyone else notices it externally. The kind where you slowly reconnect with yourself again, where your nervous system begins calming down, where your mind starts breathing again, where your relationship with God stops feeling performative and starts becoming honest. Because maybe faith was never about pretending to be fearless. Maybe faith is continuing to walk while emotionally tired, still showing up, still praying, still breathing, still trying even when clarity hasn't arrived yet. And maybe that's where you are right now, in the middle of reconstruction, not at the beginning, not at the end, just somewhere in the middle, where things still feel confusing, where your emotions still feel heavy sometimes, where your future still feels uncertain. But deep down, something inside you refuses to completely collapse. And that matters more than you think. Because some days survival itself is courage. Some days simply continuing is strength. Especially when your mind has been fighting silent battles nobody else fully understands. So if you've been feeling emotionally heavy lately, if your thoughts have been overwhelming, if your motivation disappeared, if your soul feels tired, if your expectations have slowly turned into emotional pressure, I need you to hear this clearly. You are not failing because you're exhausted. You are exhausted because you've been carrying too much for too long without enough rest, honesty, grace, or emotional support. And no, this doesn't mean your life is over. It doesn't mean your purpose disappeared. It doesn't mean you're broken beyond repair. It just means you're human, a human being trying to rebuild while carrying invisible weight. And maybe right now you don't need another speech telling you to work harder. Maybe you need permission to breathe again. Permission to stop measuring your worth every second. Permission to heal without feeling guilty for it. Permission to admit, these have been difficult days, because they have been. And pretending otherwise only makes the loneliness heavier. But listen, we are not going to collapse here. We are not going to let exhaustion convince us that our story is over. We are not going to let pressure erase who we are. Yes, things feel heavy right now. Yes, some days your mind feels like a battlefield. Yes, there are nights where your thoughts become too loud. But this is not the end of you. This is a difficult chapter, not the final chapter. And maybe rebuilding doesn't begin with intensity. Maybe it begins quietly, with honesty, with rest, with prayer, with breathing again, with slowly learning how to carry life differently, not perfectly, not instantly, but truthfully. And maybe one day you'll look back at this version of yourself with compassion instead of disappointment. Maybe one day you'll realize you were never weak. You were simply trying to survive emotional weight that became too heavy to carry alone. And despite everything, you kept going. Even now, you're still here, still listening, still searching for light, still hoping something inside your life can heal that matters more than you realize. So tonight, if your soul feels tired, if your heart feels heavy, if your mind feels overloaded, just remember this: you do not have to rebuild your entire life overnight. You only have to keep refusing to give up on yourself completely, slowly, quietly, one breath at a time. And maybe that's enough for now. Maybe surviving this season with your heart still open is already a form of strength. Maybe healing begins there, not in perfection, not in pressure, but in finally understanding you were never meant to carry all of this alone. And if nobody has told you recently, I'm proud of you for continuing, even exhausted, even uncertain, even emotionally overwhelmed. You're still here, and we're going to rebuild from here. Slowly, carefully, honestly, together.